Today on Technado, we'll be talking with 3 ITProTV members who dropped by the studios. We're going to look at Azure's $10 billion Pentagon contract and also talk about an Indian nuclear power plant that was infected with malware. That's all coming up on Technado, starting right now. Hello and welcome to Technado. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, joined by the always brilliant Don Pizzette. Don, how you doing?
I am just pumped up and excited about this week's podcast.
And the always sunburnt Justin Dennison. Justin, how are you today?
Oh, you're at that club too, my man.
Yes, I am.
When we walk out for lunch, it's sizzle, sizzle, crackle, crackle. I hope we can get to our car fast enough.
My nightly aloe bath.
Yeah. That's how what I got piped into my house.
Sure.
It's just pure aloe vera.
Straight up aloe.
Yeah, got to be careful when you drink it, though.
Heals whatever ails you.
Yep.
It's like Brondo.
Yeah.
Right.
It's got what plants crave.
Yeah, it's got
electrolytes.
It's got what my skin literally craves, which is all that good vitamins. Hey, we got an interesting week today. We've got a lot of news articles to get to, some interesting stuff going on in the world. We also had a contest here at ITProTV recently called Come See ITProTV, because it rhymes, and we had 3 winners that came in from different places around the country, and so we're actually going to talk to them for our interview today. It's always fun to hear different I'd say origin stories of how people got into IT and what they're doing now, and just kind of see what's going on, for the people on the front lines that we're talking about every week. And so we'll hear some fun stories, but that's coming up in a little bit. First, let's go ahead and get to the news. And our first article is at Wired.com. Microsoft is a surprise winner of a $10 billion Pentagon contract. Amazon had long been considered the favorite for JEDI, a project to use cloud computing to modernize warfare. And I'm sorry, I know we don't get political in this, but is this a big surprise when Trump said, let's, quote, screw over Jeff Bezos?
Well, it actually is a bit of a surprise, more so to Oracle, right? Because when this originally broke, I think 3 or 4 months ago, that there was this big contract, and Oracle was suing because they said that the contract was written in a way that only Amazon could win and that it was unfair. And so I was a little surprised to hear about this because nobody had even really thought about Microsoft. And we know that Microsoft is a little more friendly with military contracts than Amazon is. And Jeff Bezos and Donald Trump do not get along very well. What
does he own? The Washington Post, is it?
Yeah, he owns the Post.
So that's why, that's not so friendly so much.
Oops.
Yeah, good old politics. But it does show that anybody can be a winner when it comes to government contracts. This one turns out to be $10 billion with a B dollars spread over the course of several years, where Microsoft is over 10 years, where Microsoft is going to be providing the cloud infrastructure used by the Department of Defense and other organizations. So, Amazon already has what's called GovCloud, which is a private set of, it's a private region and set of availability zones just for the U.S. government, so they can deploy and know that it's in a private environment.
Meaning that it's like you're not sharing a machine with someone that's...
No, it's a separate facility.
Only U.S. government agencies are allowed to use it. So this will be similar, but in Microsoft Azure instead. So, both companies are still dealing with some really healthy contracts with the government, except for Oracle. Apparently, Oracle loses no matter what. So I'd be curious to see what Oracle does. Amazon is even threatening at this point to start up some lawsuits, although I don't think they have yet.
That's $1 billion a year. Man, I wish I could figure out some way to get
That was quick math. How did you do that fast?
10 divided by 10. Woo!
That's what your degree's in, right?
So, yes, it is.
That's why we got him here.
I don't think that's why I'm here.
And we learned the other week that you can get Azure in your little backpack now. So I could see, we've got Azure right there on the front lines.
And you can use that in the advanced compute functionality and GPUs to find out that $10 billion over 10 years works out to roughly $1 billion a year.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and we will verify that, Matt.
I think Peter's going to make some C++ programs that use distributed algorithms to confirm it.
Yeah, man. I'd be happy with just 10% of that.
Just Google the answer.
I'll take 1% of that.
1%. I'd be especially if we're not doing anything.
Yeah. Exactly.
Except in this case, they are actually expected to do something, which is offer a very secure cloud environment just for the Department of Defense. It does run the risk of alienating IT workers, right? I know that there was a small but very vocal group within Google that was protesting their their work to provide, was it AR, augmented reality technology to the U.S. government?
For the drone
or to the military? Mm-hmm.
Is it? Yeah, well, so you brought up the fact that AWS already has that type of facility. Do we know if Azure does, or if they're using obviously some of that money to build that facility?
I want to say that they had already started provisioning some of their resource. I could be wrong about that. The article does say that Google dropped out back in like last year, so they just like said no.
Yeah, they're like nobody uses our cloud.
Like we're not going to win this, so we don't want to be embarrassed. And yeah, so Azure does have Azure Government, so they do actually have one for the U.S. government.
Well, I like Google's approach too, because that's kind of been my approach in life: is you can't lose if you don't try.
Good point.
That is horrible advice to all of our listeners.
Remember that at home, kids.
I don't know. I haven't tried black tar heroin, and I don't feel like a loser.
Or maybe you are. Maybe you are.
Wow, look at this square over there. All right, let's get to our next
Everybody's
article.
doing it.
Over it. Technado does not condone the use of black tar heroin or any type of heroin. Let's go to tech.slashdot.org. Ripe Nick, in 5 weeks, will run out of IPv4 internet addresses. I feel like this is something we talked about months back, that we saw this coming, right?
Right. Yep. So, the IPv4 pool is a very limited pool. It's 4.7 billion, 4.3 billion IP addresses. So we've known we were running out for years, and regionally we are starting to run out. Here in North America, our region is already out of the larger address pools. There's only smaller pools available. Like there's no Class Cs, or I shouldn't say Class Cs. There's no /24s left here in North
Class
America.
C, that's an RV.
What?
That's a record.
No, we're not talking about CDLs, Peter.
That's it has the bed over the cab, right? It's a Class C.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Sure.
And
I don't know.
is that what, for like a commercial driver's license? Is that what we're
No,
talking
there are different
you get
RVs.
a Class
You got
C,
Class
Class
A,
B, or
Class
Class
B.
A.
You know, the only thing I know about RVs are Blackwater, Greywater, and stuff I don't want to mess with.
Drink those two, is what I remember.
But they make great coffee.
So I don't know how that matches up with IPs, but RipeNIC, which is the regional registrar for the UK, Europe, and Middle East, and parts of Central Asia, is now as well out of IPv4 addresses. So this is just a further extension of that, that basically if you're requesting IPv4 addresses, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to get larger pools. You're going to have to justify them. Even pools as small as like 16 addresses will require justification forms. And it's another call that if you haven't made the transition to IPv6, now's the time to do it, because eventually we're going to get to a point where new web services are going to launch and they will be IPv6 only. Now, we haven't reached that point yet, but it is coming. Probably in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll start to see more IPv6 only traffic.
Did it skip right over 5?
Yes.
Just like the same people behind Windows 9?
Well, there was some product out there that had a trademark on IPv5. And so they, instead of messing around with it, they just skipped it.
By the way, the van we took on the road to ChannelCon here at ITProTV, wrapped with Don's face, that was a Class B RV.
Was it technically a Class
Also
B?
called a camper van. I don't know, according to this.
Huh. For some reason, I thought those corresponded to the CDL classes, which are determined by number of passengers, gross vehicle weight.
Well, you didn't need a
towing
CDL to
capacity.
drive
You don't
that
need a
thing. It's
license
just a
to-
van.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you need any license, right, to drive an RV?
Yes.
I think the
Your
larger
stolen
right?
license works great.
No, you might need it for some of the
Yeah,
ones
for
that are like
the
on bus chassis.
I think you have to have a Class B. I could be wrong. Who
I like
knows?
how
don't
I
have
took it
one.
off the rails and you guys just followed me.
Yeah.
You're like,
Have
you
let's turn
met
this
us?
into an RV podcast.
So I got a good transition for us. So,
Oh, yeah?
speaking of hitting the road,
Who could use a nice Class A right now is Guido. Let's head over to blog.dropbox.com, the blog called Work in Progress, and it says, "Thank you, Guido," by the Dropbox team. So
I know this headline doesn't give you a lot to work
it
with.
doesn't, but I do know, from my extensive knowledge, that Guido was the creator of Python. Is that right, Jeff?
Yep. Guido van Rossum was the creator of Python way back.
Guido?
Yeah.
It's not
I
Guido?
say Guido. He allows it, but I think technically it's Guido.
Oh, I apologize.
No, I don't think you have to apologize. I think he said
He's-
in interviews, he's like, most people say Guido.
He's an avid Technado listener. Though.
Oh,
Yeah, he is.
He's Dutch.
He is
Guido
Dutch.
van Rossum.
Yeah,
So
Guido van
maybe
Rossum.
it's pronounced differently.
Yeah, so there you go.
Maybe
So
you're related.
I apologize to my Uncle Guido.
Uncle Guido. Man, I'm pretty sure he won't allow that.
No.
He might look past the Guido part, but not Uncle Guido.
Not getting invited on the RV.
No, you're not. So yeah, he's finally retiring from Dropbox. He's been working at Dropbox over the last few years. He's helping them migrate their source code from Python 2 to Python 3. Dropbox uses a great number of Python applications. I think the little sync clients are Python based. He started out as the benevolent dictator for life of Python, the creator, the decider, so to speak. I want to say last year he stepped down over, like he was like, I got to go ahead and start removing myself from this. And there was some contention about a new operator that was added called the Walrus operator. It was like a conditional assignment. And then he stayed on at Dropbox to continue working on MyPy. And I think he's finally going to hang it up and say, I have prepared everybody to take over. Things will move along just so.
When was Python originally created?
You know, I can't remember. Early 90s?
90s, okay.
Late 80s? It's been around for a long time. And he actually worked on, I think it's the ABC language. The teaching language is how he got his start in.
Always be coding.
Is
that right?
Yeah, always be coding.
Telling is not selling.
I don't know. But yeah, he was part of the ABC programming language that was developed for like teaching and kind of high level, easy stuff. And then he kind of said, well, let me write Python. Let me see how this works out. And boom, there we go. Yeah.
And that's then ballooned into one of the most popular programming languages in the world today.
Yep. Sure has.
And I bet we'll still see him around, probably participating in blogs and.
It would not surprise me. I think his retirement just means I'm not going to go to Dropbox every day or do this every day. I suspect he will still be involved or take upon causes within the community that he continues to push forward on.
Now, Justin, you write in Python pretty heavily. It's one of your favorite languages. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
All right. There was a quote in this article that stood out for me, which was somebody saying, "What I love about Python is it just works." Now, that is not something I've ever said in my entire life. So is that reasonable or insanity?
So I will say the amount of time that it takes to learn Python, just getting started and making something happen is very short for people. It's meant to be fairly intuitive, just happens. However, I know for a fact you and I have had discussions about something Python 2 to Python 3, and you were like, hey, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what you do is you have to add this, and you have to decode a string now. And you go, well, why? How would I know that? So there are some hiccups there, but by and large, it is substantially simpler and easier to get up and running. Once you get into more advanced features, I don't know if I can wholly agree with it just works.
It just works if you know how to use it.
Yeah.
Well, that's important to note because my opinion on this is certainly suspect. I am not a developer, and I think most of the applications I've written have been 20 lines or less. So I'm not a good representation on this one.
All right, our next article is from TechCrunch. A week-long iOS App Store bug wiped out over 20 million ratings, and but that's just a catastrophe when you think about all the pros that people had written about Tinder and
all the fake paid reviews that were lost in that last week. Have you guys noticed this? And I'm going to extend this beyond just the iOS App Store, but my faith in the reviews on websites has been steadily declining. Amazon, it used to actually be pretty reliable. Like, I don't want to buy this because it only has 5 reviews versus this other one that has 500 reviews. But now I feel like most of the reviews are fake.
Recently, I bought something from Amazon. Wasn't expecting it. Got a card in the mail, and it said, "Please give us a review, and we'll give you a gift card if you do it." And I was like, I'm going to go with no on that. I'm not.
I'll tell you what, I'm a member of a Facebook group for Jeep owners, and it is run by a company in China that makes a lot of the products, and they, on the Facebook group, will say, okay, we're giving away 20 of these free, and what you do is you literally go buy it on Amazon, they tell you which one to buy, and then they PayPal you back, and I did it because I was like, I want this part anyway, and I'm buying it from Amazon, so I'm not getting scammed in worst case scenario. I have the product I want. 24 hours, I had the money back in PayPal, and it's just leave a 4 or 5 star review.
Greasing the palms of commerce.
Hey,
I don't know.
That stuff's expensive, man.
It's up to you. It was just one of those things where I was like, nah, see, I might have sent a review. If you'd have sent me a postcard and said, hey, will you please leave us a review? I would have been more likely to do it than if you'd have been like, we'll give you a gift card. Because then I just kind of feel dirty.
You can look at reviews, though, on products and go, man, that guy got it for free. You know, like, I feel like you can read them and see when they're fake. But I agree with you. I don't have that level of trust anymore because of people like me.
Exactly. You're like, I've undermined my own trust.
There are people like me out there. But what happened with this particular leak in this case? So we're talking about iOS App Store reviews being wiped out.
Yeah, the iOS App Store is a bit of a mess right now, and part of it is tied to Apple's kind of changes they've been making with iTunes and the way they're handling things on the back end. This bug took a long time for them to detect and fix, but at least they did fix it, because in the past, like, do you remember the wish list feature that you could wish list or bookmark apps in the iOS App Store? If you saw an app that you kind of were interested in, you could mark it and it would go on a list. Well, they developed a bug in that system, and they said, you know what, let's just shut that off. And that's it. Wishlist went away and it was gone. And from a marketing standpoint, developers loved it because somebody might not be ready to buy their app today, but they want to buy it later, and they'll remember it because it's in the wish list. But now that the wish list is gone, you have to rediscover the app. Well, the same thing goes for reviews. If you want to find reviews, you need to be able to encourage your users to come and leave a review, and to lose a week's worth of reviews can be pretty catastrophic, but that's exactly what happened. And they haven't really released details on it, but usually when it's something like this, you can tell what happened is that some bug occurred, or likely somebody found a way to exploit the system and populate it with fake reviews. And so somebody back at Apple said, okay, let's just restore the system back to a point before that occurred. Thus, you lose an amount of time. In this case, they lost a week worth of reviews. And they did indicate that they were working to restore the reviews that were lost. And there's a quote at the very end of the article where they say, we apologize for the inconveniences caused. All ratings and reviews have been restored. So they are claiming to have restored all of the missing reviews. Whether or not that's minus a bunch of fake reviews or not, we really can't tell.
Yeah, what's interesting too is it wasn't like everyone across the board lost 35% of their reviews. It says Starbucks was hit with 1.3 million reviews lost overnight. Hulu lost about 95% of their reviews. So that's pretty crazy. 900,000 reviews there.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, I had to stymie my conspiracy theory, because when I read the list of reviews that are missing, it's companies that have a product that may compete with Apple.
Well, with Hulu, that makes sense, but Starbucks?
So not Starbucks, but like Prime Video, Venmo, Apple Pay. But I'm not saying that's true. I had to stymie that, because then you scroll down, it says, well, not only positive reviews were missing, they actually took away negative reviews as well. So.
And then we find out that like Starbucks screwed up Tim Cook's order one day.
Or no, these are all companies that came out in support of Hong Kong in the last week. So
is that true?
No, that's not true. But there probably is something like that, because I mean, my first guess would be it's someone saying, "Hey, I want to get my app up further, so let me do something that targets the competition." But and maybe you hit some of these other guys to cover your tracks. Or
this one's a little too broad.
It is, yeah. But maybe that's the point.
But I will tell you, if I was one of those app developers and, I was coming up high in the search and I woke up one morning and was like, whoa, I got 2 reviews now. I had 9,000 reviews.
That shows you the control that, or how much you're at their mercy for a lot of these businesses. I mean, obviously, I don't think Starbucks is at Apple's mercy, but...
or Disney.
Yeah, or Disney,
and all of its.
But those are the ones that people are going and searching by name. But if someone's just looking for a game or something, and if you dropped out, that can really affect the bottom line. So, be interesting to see as more details come out about that one. Let's head over now to Bloomberg.com. Speaking of China, China rolls out world's largest 5G mobile phone network, and so what we've discussed in the past is, 5G isn't necessarily a universally agreed upon standard. So do we know, is this 5G, what they're calling 5G, a significant upgrade over like what we, for example, have here in our 4G?
No, It is an improvement, just like what AT&T is saying with their 5GE or whatever, where it's somewhat made up. It's not the actual 5G. It is an improvement. It's faster than 4G networks. It can handle more connections and so on. So there's certainly benefits to it, even though it's not the actual 5G. But keep in mind that right now, becoming the world's largest 5G mobile phone network is not a hard thing to do because
It's 3 towers.
yeah, I mean, if you cover more than 10 cities, then all of a sudden you're a big deal. So this is something that's still rolling out. I think what's more important here is here in the U.S. and especially in Europe as well, 5G networks have been held up a little bit because of the giant battle between the U.S. government and Huawei, where Huawei manufactures 5G antennas, and those systems that are being used. That slowed us down here in the United States, where the government is no longer allowed to purchase those, and the telephone carriers like AT&T and Verizon are being encouraged not to purchase them as well. And overseas, we're starting to see some of that too. So in China, they don't have a problem with Huawei, and so they're able to roll this stuff out a lot more quickly. And so they have done that. They've actually rolled out the largest 5G mobile network. So if you're ever in China, you'll get some good data speeds.
Well, again, to your point, I mean, you could put one tower in the middle of Beijing and probably reach more people with your 5G than...
Well, that's probably true. Although, like, density-wise, isn't India more dense?
Yeah, it's a lot smaller space, but yeah, I don't know. I think, is Beijing the biggest city in...
I don't know. I haven't been keeping up on my population density statistics.
No?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to backtrack. It's on my New Year's resolution. Population density.
Chinese New Year or
Regular New
Regular
Year.
New Year.
Or American New Year.
regular?
Well, I'm glad Peter's like, well, let me just take this crazy.
All you out. All right. Well, I'm excited for... I don't know. I was going to say I'm excited for when 5G hits here, but then I probably have to buy a new phone, right?
Yes,
My phone's
your
not
iPhone
ready.
is not
Well, shoot.
5G.
Well, I'm very happy with all 4Gs that I'm using right now.
Yeah, here we got the antenna problem, but we also have the chipset problem where like Apple was working with Intel to get their own modem made because Qualcomm kind of has a bit of a monopoly on that. So that mess is causing some issues too. So we'll see what happens in the U.S. There's not a lot of people clamoring to get 5G though, but it'll be nice when we get it.
If we had 5G, would the weird congestion that occurs near our building change? Because I'll tell you, if you're trying to get on cellular at certain times of the day near our building,
You'll be congested faster.
it will absolutely not work. You're like, that's cool. I'm glad I'm getting email. Never.
There have been dead zones in Gainesville for 20 years. I think our city is just not laid out. We have so many trees here, and trees are
The worst.
Well, so trees are full of water, right? And water deflects a wireless signal. So that's one of the things. Our city is very green. If you've never been to Gainesville, we have more trees here than, I don't know, Brazil. So
We also have a weird favela thing on the one side of
that's our
town.
prison.
Yeah.
A
We
super fun
encourage
site as well.
riots once a year.
Yeah, coppers.
Nice.
If you were to fly over Gainesville, though, I mean, you see trees. You don't see a lot of buildings until you get to the campus, and that makes it tough on wireless. And even here in our building, we have a lot of trees outside.
Just push a theory out there that maybe no one's sending Justin emails.
Oh, no, I get all kinds of spam email. That's how I know it's not right.
That's your.
Yeah, I haven't been fished in like an hour.
This is my
Something's
metric.
wrong.
I have not gotten an ad in the last 20 minutes. This is ridiculous.
Something is wrong. All right, well, maybe the FCC is working on that. Let's find out here on TheVerge.com. The FCC is using streaming services as an excuse to raise cable rates. The deregulation train keeps on rolling. So how is the FCC raising
This is a
cable
horrible
rates?
title, by the way.
That doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
This is a horrible title.
Unless the FCC is run by the big cable companies.
It sort of is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
It is.
heavily influenced and lobbied. Well, what's his name? The head of the FCC.
Ajit Pai?
He
Yeah.
he came from Verizon,
Verizon,
right?
yeah.
So that's not really cable. It's
Well,
But
it is in a lot of
they're a
places.
media company,
They're
right?
FiOS.
I guess if you have FiOS, yeah,
Yeah.
you get the whole thing.
like New York and a lot of big cities.
But what's interesting here is that the FCC has set some limits on the amount that cable companies can charge because cable companies, by and large, have like government-sponsored monopolies, and so it's a weird thing. But they kind of have caps on their pricing, and that's being raised up. Now, what's interesting to me on this is the FCC is basically saying, look, streaming services are hurting the cable companies, so we need to allow the cable companies to charge more. Well, what's going to happen if the cable companies charge more? more people will quit and just go to streaming services. So this is going to have the opposite effect.
Yeah, so there was some like economic theory that was confusing here, but also like the reasoning. They were like, oh, because it's based on an act. So there's government regulation based on the Cable Act of like 1992, where it says we will regulate and cap prices if there is no appropriate competition within the market. Well, streaming services are competition. Well, you should raise your prices. Well, hold on a second. How's that going to help? And all it's going to do is say, well, we need to make up for revenue because of the customers lost, or I don't know. I mean, I have cable internet. I don't have cable television. They may end up just charging me more because I'm using streaming services.
We have AT&T fiber for our internet, and then we use Hulu for our TV.
Hulu TV now? I've heard about that.
We do the full one. It's like $60 a month or something like that. And our cable bill is way less than what our cable bill would have been with Cox Communications. And we get the television shows that we want.
It's live channels and stuff too?
Yeah, the $60 one is. Yeah. It's even like things that have some of their own stream. You get CBS, like local affiliate CBS.
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, this sounds like a great service. Did we do enough now, do you think, for that paycheck?
Do you think we're gonna get we're gonna get them free?
What a reliable and efficient service.
So, I think we might have talked about this on the podcast. I have a Plex server at home that I use for like storing my media. And I have a little device called an HD Home Run that hooks up to an over-the-air antenna. So for the local channels, I just record from that. So that's why I don't know if Hulu, I mean, I get several of the major networks on Hulu. I just don't know if I get the locals because we just pull them over the air.
For some reason, I've had trouble with CBS coming in on my over-the-air HD antenna. Like it'll come in some days, and then other days it's like, so yeah, we ended up.
No, that's the show.
Yeah, it's the middle of a football game.
I have DirecTV, and they've been in a contract dispute with the local NBC for about 6 months.
Oh, that sounds
which
awesome.
has been great.
But
you should look into Hulu.
You don't notice when a storm's rolling in because then you don't get any signal at all. Yeah.
I don't have the part that tells me I can't get NBC.
So that's the glory you get there, and that's why streaming services are kind of winning this battle.
Yeah, so raise your prices all you want. More people will leave, but then they'll charge you more to use your cable modem to access the competition.
Yeah.
Or they'll just shut that down because net neutrality. They can just throttle back.
Well, I mean, they can throttle, or they can say, hey, you're using Netflix, so you're going to pay us more. But there is like this onshoot of streaming services that are getting ready to come online, like Disney.
Yeah.
Apple's getting ready to come online. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Not in the articles, but the PlayStation Network View is shutting down. Yep.
Oh, I thought you meant the View with Whoopi and.
They haven't shut that down yet.
I saw a headline that said, PlayStation View, the service you never used, is shutting down. Well, I used it for several months. Yeah. It was good. It was actually affordable.
I think there's a few people in the office that used it, and they're like, well, we got to go find something new now.
Yeah.
So
Microsoft really wanted to position the Xbox too as your new cable box, kind of, and that
didn't work out.
Never really happened. So. All right, let's switch gears now over to search engine giant Google on CNET.com. Google workers sidestepping controversial Chrome tool sparks security worries. I'm deeply concerned, a Google security engineer says, unnamed Google security engineer. So this headline's a little different than what I remember originally reading, but if I'm understanding right, there was a Chrome extension that was worrying Google employees because they felt it was tracking them.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, Google rolled out a Chrome plugin to be used internally by their employees. So, most of them are using Chromebooks or other devices. They have their own Linux distro, which I think they just call G Linux or something like that, which is some Debian variant. But they all have these machines and they use Chrome because they work for Google. And they rolled out this plugin, which was supposed to serve a few different purposes. I don't know if the article references it here. But here, it's designed to activate when workers create calendar events that include more than 100 people or 10 rooms, blah, blah, blah. So, it's supposed to help manage the way that they're booking their meetings. But employees became concerned that this was a tracking mechanism. And, on one hand, you could say, come on, quit being paranoid. But on the other hand, you work for a company that makes their money by tracking people's activities. Like, that's what Google does. It's how they generate their revenue. So a lot of the employees got upset about that, and now they've been finding ways to bypass the plugin so that it won't communicate. And what security researchers are finding, and this is kind of a catch-22. So on one hand, the employees want to be able to work without being tracked. On the other hand, by bypassing security systems, they're opening themselves up to potential attacks and malicious sites and other things. And so now it's this kind of death spiral of nobody wins.
By the way, the subtitle there, I am deeply concerned. That's actually what he's talking about. The fact that they're sidestepping security policies that for like auto updates or, Chrome updates. So it's leaving them open for additional security issues. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with them. Their argument is to prevent unionization, like discussions about unionizing. The reason they cite is a meeting that was held overseas somewhere that they tried to organize, and like a manager came in and said nope, and then they went outside and had it anyway. So now they're trying to use that as the argument of this is why they installed this extension. Or you just want to make sure there's not like fire code violations. I don't know.
So a million years ago, I worked for a law firm, and at the law firm we had web filtering. So when you browse the internet, everything went through a proxy. I think it was web. I don't remember the name, but anyhow, some kind of web filter. And that meant that you didn't get actual good, clean access to the internet. You couldn't go to the websites that I wanted to go to. And so I decided to defeat this. And when I say it was a million years ago, I mean, this was probably 25 years ago. It was a long time. And I remember to this day, like, I built an SSH tunnel up to my home, so I had an out-of-band connection, and I used a web browser. It was called Ghost Browser. I don't even know if this is around anymore, but it would create a black and white view of any web page and nest it inside of Microsoft Word. So you could run Word, and it looked like you were just looking at a regular document, but it was actually a full-on web browser, so you could browse around. If somebody walked by, it just looked like you were working on a Word document. And at the time, I thought it was pretty slick, but looking back on it now, by subverting the web filter, malware is a lot more advanced now. So I could have gotten like a drive-by infection on my machine that the web filter would have protected me from. So I kind of put that company in danger, but it's past the statute of limitations, so I don't really care anymore. But that's the kind of thing that happens here, and that's why the security researchers are concerned about it.
Happened a lot when I was a school teacher. Like, people would be like, no, you shouldn't be able to see that. But I can see
like
it.
students?
Yeah. So it wasn't me. They actually blocked me from legitimate sites. They would block me from GitHub. They're like, can't go there. It's dangerous. I was like,
bad stuff.
It's full of viruses.
I tried.
Actually, the virus zoo in GitHub does have viruses.
Literally full of viruses.
I was like, but they can bring that same thing from home on a thumb drive because we didn't limit like physical device access. And they're like, but that's different. By the way, I looked up Ghost Browser. I don't know if it's a rebranding or not. It's not that in Microsoft Office browser. It's touted as the web browser that makes you more productive.
Well, the one I used did not.
Well, it depends on what.
The one I used let me play fantasy hockey.
Yeah. Whose definition of productivity?
But by the way, it's Chromium based, so it's essentially Chrome.
Oh no, that's definitely not it.
Yeah. The productivity browser for tech pros.
This reminds me. I know you're a fan, Don, but have you watched? There've only been one episode so far of the new season of Silicon Valley, the final season. I think they're tackling kind of like security and tracking and stuff this year because he testifies before Congress about tracking, and there's a whole thing about what data is being captured on their network. So you should definitely check it out.
I'll have to check it out.
Silicon Valley's.
I did watch Stuber, which had one of the guys from Silicon Valley in it.
That's not like watching that show. Then.
There was not a lot of technology. I think there was some Twitter was involved. Yeah.
That had like a 2 on Rotten Tomatoes, right?
I went into it with low expectations.
And they were met?
I laughed on several occasions.
So I argue that whole movie thing, the whole movie critic thing's getting a little out of hand because if you just set appropriate expectations up front about the movie you're getting ready to see,
that's what I said.
You can enjoy most movies.
Yeah. If you're comparing every movie to like Citizen Kane or Godfather 2 or something, that movie's going to be terrible. If you're saying, hey, for a Will Ferrell movie, this is a good Will Ferrell movie.
Case in point, we went to see the remake of The Clash of the Titans when I was in grad school. We walked in, watched it. I was like, cool. I was entertained. And I had a couple of friends. Well, that just didn't have any story. And I was like, hold up. Is that what you came here for? Because that's not what I came here for. I came for mythological beasts, computer animation. I was really hoping for the owl. You didn't give me that.
There's no owl in the remake? I didn't see the remake.
That's a piece of junk. And they throw it down.
They like fanboy it and then they throw it away. But that's what I came for. That's what I got. They were looking for like mind-blowing storytelling, and I was
Yeah.
like, that's not what I came here for.
Came to the wrong film. Like I saw that Sherlock and Holmes movie with Will Ferrell, and I know that got like a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, but I'm like, I laughed at the appropriate stupid parts because that's what I went for.
But exactly. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly in a movie. I bet it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. And I bet most legitimate critics will say that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And that's why I want to go see it.
I'm going to go watch it.
Hobbs and Shaw is not up for an Oscar, but I bet they blow stuff up pretty good.
Yep. And I like Jason Statham in The Rock.
What are the opposite of Oscars? That's the
Razzies?
Razzies. That's it. Yeah. I'm sure it'll win a couple.
They'll probably get those.
All right, let's head over now to Gizmodo.com. 7.5 million Adobe accounts exposed by security blunder. Well, luckily, I use Don's Adobe account here, so I feel like I'm in good shape with Premiere and.
Normally we say stuff joking around and all, but that's actually a true story.
100% true.
So,
What do you get? A couple user accounts on yours, so I got one of them.
have you ever been to the site Have I Been Pwned?
Yeah.
And you can type in your email address, and it will tell you if your account showed up in a breach somewhere. And almost everybody is in there. Why? Because of an Adobe breach that happened about 15 years ago that almost everybody got wrapped up in it. I'm in it. Well, you're in it transitively because you used my account.
Yeah, you're in it twice.
So Adobe had a big breach. Well, guess what? They're going for a twofer.
They're back.
They're back. Another unsecured database. This goes back to like S3 buckets not being secured. In this case, an unsecured database was exposed to the internet. A security researcher found it. Potentially other people found it as well. And 7.5 million Adobe accounts have been exposed as a result. Your payment information is not a part of it, but everything else about your account is. So congratulations, an early Christmas gift from Adobe.
So is this saying that these accounts were left unprotected and could have been seen, or is this saying, nope, we confirm these have popped up on the dark web? People have seen these.
So this one, they have actually found it on the dark web, and so it has been released. Like you can get a copy of this database if you want to right now, but a researcher was able to verify that there was an exposed database. They found where it came from, and they've secured the database. They stopped the breach, but it's kind of too late at this point.
Yeah, so if you start getting emails about updating your Adobe software, I'm guessing we should be very cautious about that, right?
Again, it's done software. I'm
Yeah, he's fine with it.
I'm updating.
Whatever.
Well, that's not what Photoshop's supposed to be doing.
You think there'll ever be a time where someone just says, man, you know what? We should not leave this database exposed without a password and just a single admin user.
You know what I blame for this? DevOps. Right? And people like Justin, and not that it's your fault, Justin, but like you're a developer and you're good at it. I shouldn't expect you. Well, all right, so you're decent at it. But I don't think it's fair that I should expect you to know how to secure a database, right? And configure a firewall and monitor for, access across the system. That's not what your job is. And in the past, we had system admins, security admins, developers. Like everybody kind of knew their role and did it really well. And in today's dev environment, we expect developers just to do the whole shebang or blindly trust that a cloud provider is going to do it for them. We've set ourselves up for failure.
What do they say? Those who can't do, teach? Is that right?
Those who can do, those who can't teach, I believe is the saying.
Right.
That's funny. So I hope you like your job. It seems like, I know I work for a training provider, but let me shoot things.
I can't even teach.
Let me tell you, it's very easy to disprove that statement, right? Yeah. Like go into any karate dojo and mess with the teacher. That's it,
Yeah, he broke me.
Turns out, yeah.
But I will say I've been in situations where like, hey, Justin, we need you to do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I have no idea how to do that. You'll figure it out. I'm like, it might work, but it's not going to be good.
Yeah, and cloud providers can get you there part of the way, but they can be misconfigured, and that's what we're seeing here. So, there is no substitute for education. You need to learn how to manage this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to have breaches. And companies like Adobe, they say they're trying, but we still have things like this happen. Article we didn't put in here, we reported on Encapsula, which is by the company Imperva, the web application firewall we use. They have a breach. I expressed that I was a little unhappy with the CEO's response. They didn't really share a lot of data with us. He actually stepped down yesterday, so he's out. And data breaches like these are becoming more frequent. So it's nice to see a CEO being held responsible for it. I hope we see more of that.
I think that was in direct response to
me?
to your commentary.
We have to be careful now because look at the power that we wield.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility.
Thank you, Uncle Ben.
Mm-hmm. The rice guy? All right. Speaking of breaches, let's head over to zdnet.com where we learn about another one here. City of Johannesburg held for ransom by hacker gang. A group named Shadow Kill Hackers is asking officials
Good name.
for 4 Bitcoins or
For a
they'll
man.
release the city data online. So this is a little bit different than normally. It seems like we're encrypting your data and we will unencrypt it for you if you pay us. They're saying we will release your data online, which is a whole different kind of liability then.
So there's a couple of things that make this unique, and I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't like reporting on cities getting hit anymore just because it's a different city each week, so who cares? But in this scenario, this is the second time the city of Johannesburg has been hit, so this is not this is like a repeat offense. They should have put the proper defenses in place to prevent this, but didn't. It's yet to be seen if they're able to recover without paying. The fact that it's only 4 Bitcoin, which amounts to, I don't know, less than $30,000 right now, it's not a ton of money, makes me think that this might not be real or it might not be widespread. And that threat to release the data, usually when you get hit by ransomware, it encrypts the data, but it all stays right there on the machine because exfiltrating across the network takes a lot of bandwidth and a lot of time. So I think that might be an empty threat on this one.
Well, it seems like this is prime for give us 4 Bitcoins so we won't do it. But if you have it, there's nothing. I would not trust you to not do it anyway, or to come back 2 days from now and go, we need 4 more Bitcoin. Up 2 days from now, we need 4 more Bitcoin.
Well, that's the interesting thing about this one to me, because when it's an issue of the encryption, that's one thing, and you can say, oh, well, luckily we have backups and they're air-gapped, and so I'm able to not pay this ransom and just roll back from my backups, lose a day or two of our data. In this case, in a case like this, if they actually did exfiltrate all that data, doesn't matter if you had a backup or anything like that. They've still got that data that they have that has, PII of your citizens or, whatever billing things they might have if they're part of the utility. I don't know. So it seems a little more frightening than, or a little bit harder to, have good procedures in place to remedy.
I'm going to be honest with you. If they were like, we're the Shadow Kill Hackers,
Yeah.
I'm like, you're on a gaming site, aren't you? This is like a gaming crew or something.
Listen, kids, do you want A's in your class? Which middle school are you in?
Or this is like a garage band that's trying to make it big, and they're like, we got to make our first album, Shadow Kill Hackers.
We're releasing our demo.
We want 4 Bitcoin or 100 CSGO keys. Right? That's the other.
And until you do, we're putting our mixtape on your server.
Yeah.
For everyone to download. Well, that's sad for Johannesburg, and that they have continued to keep the same IT staff.
So that was another article that we didn't have time to throw in on the show was CSGO. Do you guys know about CSGO keys?
No.
I just kind of threw it out there flippantly.
It's like Pokemon Go, right?
CSGO is Counter-Strike Global Offensive. It's a video game.
Oh, Counter-Strike, yeah.
And so
Been
in
around for
Counter-Strike is by Valve and people that own Steam. And in the game, apparently you get these loot boxes, but you need a key to unlock them. And people trade the keys online for real money. It's kind of become like an unofficial currency. Well, this week, Steam actually suspended CSGO keys. Like, you can't trade them anymore because they determined that almost 100% of all CSGO key transactions were for illegal money laundering. Like, they've basically been running one of the biggest money laundering systems in the public eye for years now, and so they actually had to shut it down.
Oops.
Yeah,
Pretty
not
neat.
bad.
Yeah, that's happened with a bunch of like online games. I remember when I played several multiplayer online games, and you would go on eBay or like these little exchanges, and I go, are people really paying $1,000 for that? And they're like, yep, sold 3 of them this morning.
Real money.
Yeah. It was crazy. I didn't. I was also bad at it, so there you go.
There you go. All right, let's go over now to arstechnica.com to learn about our next government getting pwned. I love it. They call it a fission attack. Indian nuclear power plant's network was hacked, officials confirm. After initial denial, company says report of, quote, malware in the system is correct. And that is not the kind of thing that you want to hear is
Right.
undergoing a ransomware attack.
Yeah, imagine if like the temperature control system in one of these nuclear plants gets shut down because of malware.
I think that's what happened in the Chernobyl. I haven't finished that whole documentary, but I assume.
Don't think
Is that not what happened?
I think somebody was like, "What happens if we remove these carbon rods?"
Oh, that too.
Oh,
It was-
No, I
okay.
think didn't Rasputin cast a spell or something?
Yeah,
Oh,
actually, you know what? I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All of those are probably
We'll need to
lies,
finish
by the
that
way.
show.
Well, now we'll never know. But anytime you mess with a nuclear plant, you potentially affect the entire world, which draws a lot of attention to this. This one is actually very similar to the attacks that happened in Iran, where some unnamed countries that certainly weren't Israel and the United States worked to push the Stuxnet malware out to shut down some Iran nuclear processing plants. This is similar, except we don't know who did it yet. And while there was a very clear motive for the United States to target Iran, I don't really know who would target India. I think the only people mad at India right now are Pakistan, but I'm not up on my regional
But they're very
politics. So they
They
are
seem to
very
be
mad.
very
Yeah,
mad.
they do not get along at all.
Oh,
So-
it says they have acknowledged today that the malware attributed by others to North Korean state actors has been found on the administrative network of the power plant, which I will not say
I
the
wonder
name
why
of.
North Korea would be mad at India. I'm not really familiar with their relationship.
Yeah, they seem like a peace-loving people.
Would this possibly be used for just trying to get exfiltration of data for nuclear plans or information?
Maybe.
Right? Because don't they have
that's a good
like
point.
kind of lockdown on like their nuclear facilities? They've had like
Yeah,
I
failed
mean, there's
attempts and
sanctions
stuff.
on sharing
Yeah.
that data with
Yeah.
them. I mean, we've also seen in the past and reported about the billions that North Korea has reported to have earned through attacks. So I don't know if there's a ransom in this case.
Yeah.
But
I would
But
think
you're
if
right,
you were
that-
just doing information gathering, they wouldn't want to be known that they were there. They wouldn't, lock the systems or take them offline. They'd want as much access as they could get.
But that's not what they did,
Yeah.
right? It just says identification of malware in the system is correct. So they,
So maybe
we
that
don't know
is
how
it
long
then.
it's been there.
Yeah, if it's
And
doing
D-Track
surveillance.
appears to be an espionage and reconnaissance tool. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Gathering data about infected systems and capable of logging keystrokes, scanning connected networks, and monitoring active processes on infected computers.
Huh.
It seems like they're just out for information.
That's very different than Stuxnet, right?
Yep.
So Stuxnet,
Stuxnet
was
was-
shutting the system down.
Yeah, Stuxnet was to under the table, oops, the centrifuge goes bad, but you don't know it's bad until it's really bad.
it could have been anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Anybody. Definitely not the United States.
Probably
or
us.
Israel.
All right. Well, that's it for the news this week, guys. Did I miss any articles? I know I've done that before.
No, I think I managed to throw in numerous articles just in the middle of all the others.
Fantastic. Well, as promised, we do have some very special interviews today. 3 separate, what do we call them, bite-sized interviews? Little
Sure.
interviewlets.
Does that work there?
No.
Interviewitos?
Yes.
Interviewitos.
Tres interview.
Is that
Ethos.
cultural appropriation?
I don't.
Well-
it was Peter's fault.
Let's go ahead and take a look at those now, right after this here on Technado.
I'm James Packer. I'm the General Manager of Kirk ISS based in the Cayman Islands. I used ITProTV extensively in my last place. It grew very well, helped upskill the team. I had 110 engineers in the field and we had dozens of IT Pro accounts with the guys training, and last year alone they passed over 40 certs by using the online training. I think I can safely say without ITProTV I wouldn't be where I was today, because I only got this job on the back of the qualifications I have.
All right, welcome back to Technado. Time for our interview today, which is a very special interview. We actually had a contest recently here at ITProTV, which was called Come See ITProTV, where, as it sounds, you were able to win a chance to come and spend a day in the studios, meet all the edutainers, see how things work behind the scenes. And we decided part of that would be to bring these people on Technado because they all have interesting stories about their journeys in IT. And we have our first winner here today. It is Quinet Juarez, who is coming to us all the way from Houston, Texas. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Thanks.
We're really excited to have you. And you have a really cool job. Can you tell us what you do?
Monitoring space junk? Or, well, in a nutshell, but I help support the systems for the Orbital Debris Program Office at NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, you're with Jacobs Engineering Group, which is a contractor for NASA.
Correct.
And so, we were talking about you have, what would you say, basically just a space garbage person?
Space trash woman?
Space trash woman? Yeah.
Space garbage, yeah. Space garbage woman.
So, I mean, I know you're obviously not on that side of things, but so we're talking about like things in Earth's orbit that are, could interfere with satellites and stuff like that?
Oh, yes. All sorts of, even small paint specks are a huge danger to satellites. So just anything, all the man-made or objects that don't serve a purpose anymore, just floating around, orbiting, that haven't been dragged back into...
Or fallen from the sky yet?
And do you work with the systems that track all of that? Because it's got to be an impressive amount of hardware required to track all of it.
We do have some... Gosh, there's so many different divisions. I wouldn't know which ones to cover, but my specific group, I know that we get tapes actually from MIT. There's a Haystack and Hacks radar's there, and they send us the data, and then we'll do some radar data processing and analysis on that. And I actually do a little bit of that still, because I used to start out doing radar data processing, but now I just do mainly just IT. But sometimes if they need extra help, then I'll help them work the software, since I've been working the software for so many years on processing radar data.
Now, when you say you do IT, what does that mean? Like, are you supporting all the other employees, kind of like desktop support, or you're working on servers? What is your role?
So it's just me and one other woman for the Orbital Debris Program Office, and I monitor, maintain, secure Linux and NAS systems for our group.
So, Linux systems, is that where you got to see Don's amazing episodes?
Yes, he feels like my celebrity here. That
We're swooning.
Yeah, I know. I was like, woo! There's a celebrity right in front of me. I know, right?
What courses were you watching specifically?
There was some security courses. I even went through some of the intro courses, even though I've been using Linux for such a long time. But even going through the intro courses helped, because I got to learn some stuff that I didn't know existed. Some commands like the sudo -s. Just to become root. And I was like, oh, you mean I didn't have to type sudo each and every darn time just to run a command? I'm like, oh, okay. So I take a lot of notes from a lot of your class. I've taken so many courses, I don't even remember what I've taken, but a lot, because I was required to take at least 4 hours of my choosing. And so most of my courses were yours.
That's awesome.
Are people using Linux like on their workstations, or?
Well, yeah, the SSH from the Windows desktop, but yeah.
Gotcha.
That's what you're asking.
So your normal setup, though, would be a Windows desktop, but then your servers are Linux and applications are running from that? Like,
Yes.
Is it still older applications, kind of like the green screen terminal type stuff, or do you guys deal with web apps and newer type development?
I guess they're just... Well, they do have some old stuff, but they're trying to, I guess, what do you call it?
Modernize.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm short for words
The
here.
last 2 weeks we've been talking about legacy systems and a lot of
Windows we have a lot of
7
problems with
and
that.
stuff like that, because you're governments, you've got something that works. Yeah.
If you think about NASA, like if they say, all right, we need some new software to track space debris, let's go on Amazon and see what's out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So pretty much everything's custom built, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And like you were saying, the legacy software, oh my goodness. Because, there's so many problems, up and coming problems with security, and you need to have something, with the updated OS, but it only works with this old Fortran program on this kind of platform. And so they're constantly having to, rewrite programs and rewrite from this to whatever. Now, recently Python, and having to change so many lines of codes just so that we can move it onto a different system, just so that we can, install patches and it can be secure and not have a vulnerability in our system. So yeah, there's a lot of problems with that.
All right. So what is the coolest technology that you get to work with?
I don't know.
Is there one system where, like, I know for me that people will come to me and say, like, Don, I need help with this, and I go, oh God, I don't want to mess with that thing again. But sometimes there's systems where I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun, right? Is there something that you look forward to working on?
Actually, no. I'm sorry, I'm boring.
What's the thing they won't let you touch then?
Well, anything that has behind the walls of security clearance, I can't go in those rooms because I don't have a security clearance. So I can't go in there, so I don't know what the heck's in there or what kind of systems on
Good
it.
space debris right there.
Yeah,
That's where the aliens are. There's actually aliens running those systems.
Hey, I don't know, maybe, because I'm not allowed on those rooms. I don't know what's going on. It's only, DOD folks and other people, and I know if something's coming through or if there was a collision or China accidentally exploded a satellite or something,
Accidentally.
Yeah, so, I don't know when it's going to, I don't know until the actual public knows, from when it's cleared and whatever, but yeah, but there is a lot of exciting stuff that's always happening, but I don't get to be involved in it.
So now working in NASA is really cool, but obviously you didn't work there your whole life. So how did you get to this point in your career? What made you get into IT and what led you to where you are now?
Actually, I started out in the medical field. I was going to be a dietitian. I really had no interest in life. I still don't have no interest. I'm sorry, I'm such a boring person.
Trying to find yourself.
Because working at NASA, they all knew that they wanted to be there since the age of 4. They all know, oh yeah, this is so cool. I work with a bunch of, am I allowed to say it, geeks and nerds? Sorry.
Yeah.
And I just, my dad said, you can't keep wasting time. You have to pick a major. So I said, okay, fine. I'll just do what you're doing, because my dad was doing Unix system administration at NASA, actually. Oh, cool. And so I said, I'll do that. That way you can help me with my homework. And then another thing, there was a summer intern work at NASA. My dad also forced me to do that too, and I didn't want to. But I'm so glad now because I'm still there. And so, okay, I said, I'll do that. So I started off as an office assistant. I just made all sorts of deliveries all over the site of NASA, did filing, accounting, just any kind of menial task. And then when I heard that another woman was leaving her position, and I asked the manager, I said, hey, can I take over hers? Because she was doing radar data processing. And I said, if you train me, would I be able to do that kind of job? And he said, oh, yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, we could do that for you. And I never thought about that. And so I got into radar data processing. And then as I was going through school while, working at the same time, there was a system admin there. And I asked the same manager again, I was like, can I help her do her job and, follow her around? Because since I'm doing that in school, I want to, be able to actually do the work. So, because it's not the same when you're just reading and studying and not actually on the job training and working, fixing things. So I got to do that. And after I got my BS in CIS, computer information systems, and they opened up that position for me, the systems analyst, and here I am today doing IT.
And now it's like a dynasty, right? Your dad did it, now you're doing it.
Yeah.
Your children will go on to do it.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Name the Space Center after you.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So what is there anything you're kind of looking at on the horizon in terms of technologies you want to learn, or positions you're seeing at NASA that you want to move into that you need additional training for?
So actually at work, they have been pushing me more into doing a lot of security and learning up a lot on that, which I know nothing of. So actually, and I've also been watching your YouTube videos and the pen testing and ethical hacking, stuff like that. And I thought, that's pretty cool. Would I be able to do that? It works with security and stuff. And I thought, okay, so if I get laid off or fired, I'm going to hacking.
Fantastic.
No, not hacking. I mean,
ethical
right.
hacking.
I meant pen testing.
I want to write the best ransomware ever.
Right?
And now that I know all the back-end systems at NASA,
I know.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to pay some Bitcoin to get that that ship back, I think. Well, thank you so much for not only being a member, but coming and sharing your story with us. We really
Thanks for having me. It's good seeing you two in person. It's weird because I really do. Y'all really do feel like celebrities because I've been watching so many of your your Technado episodes. I'm like, oh wow, now I get to see them in person.
Well, I'm redder than I normally am. Now,
Impossible.
Just saying a lot. Well, thank you again for coming and hanging out with us, and thank you everyone for watching. But stay tuned because we're going to do more of these interviews coming up in just a second here on Technado.
Are you a career changer or a budding tech pro who's looking to start their career in IT? I'm Wes Bryan, and along with my fellow IT Pro TV edutainer Cherokee Boos, we've just shot a new show just for you. Each week, we'll dive into topics to help you launch your career in tech. Watch how to get started in IT on YouTube now. Just head to youtube.com/ITProTV to watch and look for new episodes every Saturday at 9 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time.
All right, welcome back to Technado. We've got another guest now here in the studio from our Come See ITProTV promotion. We're joined now by Mason Balu, who is an SOC analyst at Global Payments. How you doing, Mason?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm great, thank you. And you're joining us all the way down from the greater Atlanta area. Has that been home for life?
So
Native Atlanta?
yeah, Metro Atlanta,
Okay.
born and raised.
So tell me a little bit about. I know what a SOC is, but what is a SOC analyst? Are you just kind of watching that big screen, waiting for like a bunch of red blinking lights to go off, and then you do stuff?
So we have certain tools that we monitor. SOC being the Security Operations Center. I'm a SOC analyst, so we have various tools that we monitor, whether it's malware events, network intrusion events, see the occasional privacy event. So a little bit of everything.
And you're in the financial industry, so I got to think that's pretty frequent.
Yep, financial technology. That is correct.
So how often are things coming up?
I would quite a bit. I mean, it's every day something new.
So when you monitor things like this, obviously it can be a pretty big system. We used to focus on servers or like network infrastructure where we focused a lot, but we're seeing a lot of the breaches coming from workstations too. So do you monitor like end to end, or you focus on the server and network infrastructure?
We monitor everything from the endpoints themselves to the user accounts to any device on the network.
And the gears are turning really fast here in my head because I'm trying to find some kind of phishing approach I can take with them. So when you log in, do you use a username or do you use a
It's funny that you're doing it because at lunch, I did the same thing. I was like, do you have some like forward-facing user accounts and maybe have some weak passwords? What were your favorite dog?
Well, we have the
high
service
school?
account,
Yeah, and their passwords. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's recorded. It actually brings up. You're watching these events. Has there ever been a time where you went, not again? And if so, what kind of things are you seeing there?
So normally when we get those moments, normally it's end user grabbing something out of their spam folder, and you just ask yourself, you say, why the spam folder?
Well, we call it the second inbox.
Yeah, it's our second inbox.
We get so many false positives.
Yeah. So I can see that, but is really people just go digging around and go, I do want a new car and some money. Click.
Like I said, it's something new every day. So
tell us about how you got to the position you're in now. Did you, come out of school and just say, this is what I want to do, or what was that path like?
No, actually, quite the opposite. Had quite a drastic career change. I joined the Army Reserves while I was still in high school as an intelligence analyst. So primarily focusing all source, so dealing with every type of military intelligence. So electronic intelligence, signals intelligence, you name it, we dealt with it. And we would actually put all that together and, give a situation update to whoever's in charge. I mobilized back in 2012, came home and actually got in the transportation industry where I started off part-time as a dock worker, driving a forklift, worked my way up to full-time and then into management, and was working 60, 65 hours a week and decided that that's not what I ultimately wanted to do. And I left my position and started studying 7-8 hours a day to get my Security Plus certification, and managed to, achieve that goal and getting that, and started applying, and had a company that went out on a limb and hired me, without the what I thought was enough experience, and it's worked out well.
Now, I'm curious because you were doing military intelligence, which, if we think IT security officer, military intelligence, you're handling sensitive data, that makes a lot of sense. Did you find that you learned, or that you had practical skills from that stint in the military that you're able to use in the real world, or you took a little bit of a break and then got in? So did you have to learn from scratch?
So a lot of the concepts are very similar. So like the OODA loop is used largely in the military intelligence community, and also like if you're getting into like threat intel, in the cyber realm. So a lot of the concepts of how you would look at an event are very similar. So I had that going for me as far as how to think about something occurring. But as far as, technicalities and getting into specifics, I pretty much had to teach myself everything.
So obviously you're an ITProTV member. That's how the contest went. So what courses have you been doing recently, and what things are you looking at learning in the future?
So I'm doing the CISA Plus right now, and I'm enjoying it. It's very hands-on. So the content is there, and also doing the virtual labs and the practice tests. So it kind of reinforces itself. You can do everything you need, right there within the course. And I haven't really decided on where I want to specialize. I don't know if I want to go threat intel or malware analysis or pen testing. So it's going to be one of those three. I've narrowed it down.
And so you've been watching a lot of Daniel Lowry's content?
Yes. I watch a lot of Daniel's content.
I'm so sorry.
I know, it was a tough hire because I said, I wanted to hire a hacker, not a no-talent hack, right? But,
it was close. It was close. However, without that string of horrible decisions, I may not be here. So
good point.
Yeah,
good point.
Turned out he is a no-talent hacker.
Yeah, I am. I'm like hacking.
Have you watched any of the OWASP content that Daniel and Justin put out?
I have not, but they've told me about it today, and I plan on watching those probably this evening.
It's on Comedy Central.
It is. Yeah. It is. There's some pretty good funny in there. Well, I thought it was funny, but
funny at the time, not funny in front of a judge.
Yeah. If I'm subpoenaed over it, then it won't be funny anymore.
Most of that stuff's been edited out.
Yeah. I think it has. So we had several takes there. So from your area of specialization, something I always found interesting is like trying to physically enter somewhere, like talk to someone and go, "Hey, I need to get in your server room." Is that something that interests you, or if not, why not?
Yeah, I would think so, because at that point you're playing on the human element, so social engineering, and I would say the majority of people want to help someone else. So whether you come across as you're portraying that you're in a rush or you need help, or whatever the case might be, there's so many different ways to approach social engineering. It's definitely something that interests me, and playing off social engineering is definitely a good way to gain entrance, to a physical location.
Or to win a contest. Did you want to tour the server room again?
Sure.
He's like, "Can I plug in this thumb drive?"
Yeah,
it'll be fine. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, as long as the marketing team is the one doing the tours.
No, not this one. Wait.
No, not that one at all. Uh-oh. I think we're going to cut this.
We need a metal detector.
Well, I want to say congratulations again, and thank you so much for coming down and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, and thank you all of you for watching, but stay tuned. We've got more Technado coming up right after this.
Hi, I'm Vicky Guy. Join me each week for Ignite Stories of Leadership, a podcast from the ProTV network. Each week, I'm joined by a different guest from around the world as we explore issues to ignite the leader in you. Building on my long career in corporate learning, I'll bring you face-to-face with leaders and global businesses and present real tactics for applying new strategies in your career. Watch and subscribe today at itpro.tv/podcasts.
All right, welcome back to Technado, and this is our third of 3 interviews in our Come See ITProTV promotion, and our last and final guest, we saved the best for last. This is Olga Hart, who is the IT manager at Radiology Partners up in Ohio. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. And you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for asking. So what does this sounds like a smaller organization. It's not necessarily smaller. You mentioned a couple locations, but how big is this IT team?
It's the IT team is actually spread across the nation.
Oh, wow.
So we go from as far east as New Jersey and the Tampa area all the way to the Los Angeles area. So
that's a lot bigger than I thought.
We are from sea to shining sea.
Now, with radiology, I know one of the things that you deal with is imaging, and some of those images can be incredibly large.
Yes.
So do you deal really heavy with WAN links and?
Well, the biggest issue is images are coming slow for the radiologists. They can't load fast enough. So it depends on the internet bandwidth at the hospital and facilities, as well as any kind of networking that's taking place. So,
and I'm no doctor. I promise.
But he plays one on TV. Each
When we
day
talk about radiology, we're talking about like CAT scans, MRIs, that
CAT
kind of thing?
scans, MRIs, yes,
And
yes, and
I've
X-rays.
heard that a single MRI can be, gigabytes, if not terabytes of data.
Yes, yes.
They just save it
yes.
as a GIF, though.
Yes.
An animated GIF.
No.
The doctor throws a meme of that choice on.
Catch it at the right time as it goes through. I believe that's how it happens.
Oh man, I tell you what, if I saw that at a hospital, like a doctor was like, click, there it is. Like,
Wait a second.
wait a minute, is that an animated GIF? He's like, it's a GIF.
Yeah.
I went to med school. So, what are some of the other problems that you face?
Some of our users use voice recognition systems in order to dictate. Most radiologists use a voice recognition system to dictate the radiology report. So if they're having any electronic issues with regard to that, you'll be surprised at how much sometimes they'll be static, where the voice recognition system isn't picking up on the words that the radiologist is dictating, but there's electronic static because their iPhone's right next to their speech mic. So if you move the iPhone out hand's length, it'll minimize the static. So
you're not only dealing with the big imaging files, but now also audio files and stuff.
Right.
Very anti-Apple.
Yes.
Right, no Apple devices.
No, that healthcare is not. Most of healthcare clinical applications do not run well on Apple devices. So, true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
It's true.
Most of the custom software, like the big medical suites like Epic and all that are really just Windows only.
Yes, Windows based.
I don't know if either of you guys have dealt with that stuff. Probably.
I have.
Yeah.
I'm sweating. I'm
Yes.
sweating.
Pain just to look
Yeah,
at
like, that's bad stuff.
Oh, is it older versions of Windows too? Like, because I know we've been talking a little bit about like Windows 7 end of life, stuff like that.
Windows 7 is at the end of life, and many clinical applications, especially with imaging, were not compatible with newer versions of Windows. So they've been doing upgrades and updating their code, and several clinical systems across the country are actually upgrading from Windows 7 to Windows 8 this year.
Why don't we just make the jump
It just
to where
depends.
we are today?
It
Like
just
we just
depends.
like to deal with this again and
Right.
again.
It could vary. It could vary.
Job
Right.
security.
These custom applications, I've always wondered, because I've worked in a couple of places and they're like, we still use Internet Explorer 8 because our financial software was written to work only with Internet Explorer 8. Is that something that's vetted when you adopt these software? Is it because you don't have any other choice, or do you go, yep, I want the one that runs on Windows XP only, so I have to deal with those?
In some cases, we have no choice.
That's unfortunate.
Yes.
That is unfortunate.
Yes.
I feel like there's a business model there.
Yes.
Someone's making that decision at the level of the person that doesn't actually touch the machine. Probably they're like, well, this one's only $50,000, so let's do that one.
Well, you take software like Epic, where it costs millions and millions of dollars to deploy, but then they want millions of dollars to upgrade it as well.
Right.
So the choice isn't like they'll have a Windows 10 version available, but if it costs millions of dollars to do it, all of a sudden that extended support from Microsoft doesn't look so bad at $20 a computer per year, whatever they're charging. So, let's go back in time a little bit and talk about how you got into IT, how you got into the role that you're in right now, because you started, we talked a little bit earlier about how you started when your company didn't truly have an IT department, right?
No, it was pure dumb luck how I started in IT. So started my career late 80s when I was young and in my early 20s, and started as a bank teller. And they were developing a new department called electronic banking. And that was, and they were having a hard time getting candidates. So they had asked me, Olga, would you be interested in joining our electronic banking department? I'm like, sure, what do I need to do? Well, we need to help program PIN codes for ATM cards. So, well, sure, why not? So I transferred departments, and back then the banking system in the Northeast Ohio area did a mass mailing of ATM cards. ATM cards did not come pre-programmed with your PIN code as they do today, right? So the customer would get their card. They'd have to call into the number. They would put into the telephone number their PIN code. I, on the other end, as the person, would put in my code to come up with a check digit in order to program their ATM card for their ATM cards to be used. That was the early days of electronic banking. It was before IT kind of even existed. Fast forward another 6 months to a year, they had they wanted to use this new fancy loan software. And this loan software they wanted to install in all the branches in Northeast Ohio. And the loan software came in a box of diskettes, 5 1/4-inch diskettes.
Yeah.
And they said, how are we going to install this in the systems? And so I got the box of 5 1/4-inch diskettes. And the installation process was, Olga, you drive 2 branches in Northeast Ohio to install this software, loan software, into the computers, disk 1 of 2, disk 2, or 1 of 10, 2 of 10, 3 of 10. God forbid you get abort, retry, ignore because the disk drive wasn't reading. Right. Install the software. After you install the software, then I had to configure the software in order to, for the loan officers to be able to print the loan documents into the printer at the branch. On top of that, I still had to configure the application and train the loan officers how to use the loan software. And so distributed computing then was Olga with a box of diskettes driving from branch to branch to branch.
The Olga Transport Protocol, OTP.
Right.
I'm
So, so that's kind of like how I got into IT. I kind of embraced anything that anybody else didn't want to touch. A funny story from the old days, and I was reflecting on when typewriters were being removed out of the banking system and WordPerfect was around, right? And so they installed WordPerfect, which was a glorified word processor, right? And so sometimes people were working on documents, but people back then, we didn't lock our computers when we walked away or anything like that. Well, some people that were really creative, if somebody left for lunch and they were working like a big disaster recovery document, and when they would walk away for lunch, and what they did is they changed the font color so it's white on white. So when the person came back from lunch, it appeared like their whole file got wiped out. And here was just, because, back then you could change the font color. You could do white on white and the file is still there.
Would the dot matrix printer still print this then, or just, it would just run back and forth?
We still had dot matrix printers back then. So, and the green lines and those papers and data cards and...
Really important question.
Yes.
When you installed the software, did it come with Oregon Trail?
No, it did not.
I was really hoping this 5 1/4 had a extra. We're like,
5 1/4.
Printed your loan documents. Also, I got dysentery.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was so happy because those 5 1/4-inch diskettes were very sensitive, and when we went to the 3 1/2-inch drives, I'm telling you what, we were hardcore back then. I mean, we were the hot shots if we had a 3 1/2, and if you had a computer that had both drives. Sweet, yes.
That's the IT department. Now, this sounds like a licensing violation if you're taking the same box of software all around to all these different locations. I feel like you just bought the one license.
No. We properly licensed.
They could have sent you a couple boxes then.
Back then, I was friends with the audit department, and in the early days of banking, the OCC, when the bank examiner comes, it's true. It still happens today, right? Yeah. So no, we were fully in compliance.
It was Olga Transport Protocol, not BitTorrent.
Right, right.
So
and my GPS were one of those rad maps, the
the
ones you get.
The
You have the
atlas.
books.
We had a
You got the
highlighter.
map.
And my dad asked me recently. He said, "Hey, I just got a new one of those. You want my old one?" It's like, no, I can't think of any reason why I would.
I just threw out my Atlas a few months ago, and because I always kept it in the trunk of the car, just in case, and it was hard because I thought, what if you're somewhere you have no cell phone signal? And
we're thinking zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
I was thinking zombie apocalypse. What if things go
and
crazy?
I threw it out and didn't replace it. So
Sorry,
but I do have a towel in the trunk, so there's that.
I've got the one for my dad. If you want to part, I'm sure he didn't throw it away. Then it's on a shelf. So, can you tell us a little bit about fast forwarding back to now? What things are you studying on ITProTV? I know you've been a member not too long, about 6 months or so.
About 6 months.
So, what has been interesting to you?
So I'm more so going toward the operations governance path. So recently, knowing that Excelos did an upgrade, or refresh of ITIL, right? So the ITIL for Us Foundation was recently released in February. So I had started my journey with getting certified with ITIL 4 Foundation, and then as well as Agile Shift and various foundations. So currently I'm studying the professional series, but within I literally became a member 6 months ago, and I've already had 3 certs. So at this point in my career, I'm more on the governance path. I did take my Network Plus certification when we had AOL dial-up days.
Is that lifetime?
Yeah.
So you're set.
Oh yeah.
And
I
nothing's
guess.
changed.
Well, I mean,
I just think of the
would have
questions
been
of going, how do you get that CD to people?
right.
Get AOL set up.
Right,
That's
right.
That's how
I mean,
networking
and yeah, and it's just like, or even, how to do a boot test to recover, Windows operating system. Of course, back then the joke was format C:. That was always the favorite DOS joke of the day, right? Format C:. So that was always.
I'm having like
command
horrible
prompt.
flashbacks of like getting a hard drive that wasn't formatted, and I was like 12, and I was trying to.
You have to format your own drive.
But I didn't know that, and so I spent like a good 18 hours going, this is not working. I didn't go to sleep. Finally whooped out my old DOS book, and I was like, wait a minute.
What if?
Oh no! And boom, and then it was glory.
Well, thank you, Olga, for confirming. I was doing an informal survey of the 3 winners, and none have watched any of Justin's content. Confirming my hypothesis.
It's funny. None have watched Peter's content either.
Okay.
Oh.
Do other stuff here.
Me too.
Okay. Well, thank you, Olga, for taking the time and coming in and telling us your story. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me. This has been a great experience.
Definitely.
So.
Definitely.
Definitely a geek dream trip, Yeah. Yes, I am.
Well, thank you for coming down, and thank you to all of our winners in the Come See ITProTV contest, and thank you all for watching. But stay tuned because we have more Technado coming up right after this.
The ITProTV app is available for iOS and tvOS. The modern user interface makes navigation easy. Recently watched videos can be found on the home screen, as well as our daily live streams. Choose Landscape mode for larger viewing. Access the entire course library by clicking on the play icon. Navigate our content by category, certification, and job role. Learn where you want and when you want as a premium annual member by downloading episodes for offline viewing. Watch on the go and pick up later on any of your favorite devices. So head to the App Store and download the ITProTV app.
All right, welcome back to Technado, and congratulations again to our 3 winners. They're a lot of fun to meet some members and hear some stories from people that have, actually benefited from the training here at ITProTV.
Yeah, and several of them actually admitted to listening to Technado on a regular basis, so I was surprised to hear that.
And not a single one had heard of Justin.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Actually, that's not true. I walked into stand-up, and one was like, I know your face. I know your face.
Oh, no, wait, that's not Peter.
Well, but from us or from the wanted posters?
Yeah.
That's
never forget that
irrespective of this
face.
conversation.
I'll never forget those dead eyes.
He's soulless, he is. I don't know why they became a pirate.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's Halloween. So,
Yep. It is.
Yeah, that's when we're filming this here. So, and speaking of which, we had a really fun webinar earlier today, Threats in Disguise, where Don, you and Daniel talked about some malicious devices that could be hiding in costume, basically, in your office, from what did we have? We had the land turtle. We had a little.
Yeah, the fake USB network adapter. We had the keylogger that was disguised as a USB extension cable.
That was cool. Yeah.
There was a Wi-Fi pumpkin hidden inside a pumpkin. Actually, a camera hidden inside a pumpkin as well. So we had a lot of cool stuff.
Well, hopefully you saw that. But if you missed it, you can still access the entire archive of webinars from IT Pro TV. If you just head over to itpro.tv/webinars, there you can see the upcoming webinars as well as all the past ones. And we'll probably get that one up midweek, the week after Halloween, so like first week of November here, depending on when you are watching this episode. But we do have another live webinar coming up very soon on Thursday, November 7th. It is Digital Transformation in 2020, and Joe Peacock will be taking us through that along with Wes Bryant, Thursday, November 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So again, head over to itpro.tv/webinars where you can sign up for that one. And while you're on the World Wide Web, why not head over to go.itpro.tv/Technado. There's a 30% coupon code for all subscriptions to IT Pro TV. Also, some forms you can fill out to get a demo of IT Pro TV's business applications there, and you can see all the fun things you can do behind the scenes to manage your team in IT Pro TV. That's at go.itpro.tv/Technado. All right, well, gentlemen, I know we want to get out of here because we're all, assume, going to trick or treat tonight.
Absolutely.
No.
Perfect.
It's really odd because I tell people, I'm like, I love October, Halloween.
Yeah, but then,
And they go, oh, you dress up. No.
Yeah.
Oh, you give out candy. Absolutely not.
Is the 500-yard thing?
No, it's not it. It has nothing to do with those wanted posters or that mandatory reporting.
All right.
Also, you're in that wheel. I think I just like the fall change, and I like horror movies. Like I'm a giant horror movie fan.
And just to point out, we are in Florida, and I believe it's 88 degrees today. So
yeah, it's been pretty warm the last few days.
It's pumpkin spice weather, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
It's supposed to be tonight, though. Tonight, it's going to get down
actually,
in the 50s.
yeah, it is. It's supposed to start cooling down over the next few days.
And I know people around the country are going, you jerks. Yeah. You know, I've been looking at the weather up in Milwaukee because we're headed up there a little bit to meet another member, and it's like 28.
You got to break out the snow jacket.
And I never had to do that, trick or treat in like a parka. You know, coming in from Florida, this is, you go.
How do you do that? You don't.
You're like, what are you under your jacket?
You suit up.
I'm a ghost, trust me.
Just dress up like Chewie or an Ewok or something.
Oh, yeah, you do something warm.
Warm costumes.
That makes sense. All right, well, hope you all had a good Halloween and a safe and happy one and are still enjoying your sugar high from all that candy. But we will see you back here next week for more Technado. See you then.